Madam Speaker, I rise today in support of the supplemental aid package for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. This morning, the Senate passed the aid package with nearly all Senate Democrats voting in favor of the bill. I'd like to thank Senate Democrats for their tireless leadership on this issue and their commitment to democracy around the world. 22 Republicans also voted with nearly all Senate Democrats to move this bill to the House. 22 Senate Republicans voted to put country over party. 22 Senate Republicans voted to put democracy over Donald Trump. This bill includes funding to stand with our allies in Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. It also includes $9.2 billion in humanitarian assistance that is desperately needed to provide food, water, shelter, and medical care for the civilians in Gaza and the West Bank, Ukraine, and other war zones around the world. Now, Madam Speaker, the eyes of the world are watching the House of Representatives. Russia is watching, China is watching, Iran is watching, and North Korea is watching. Authoritarian regimes around the world are watching the House. They're watching the People's House to see if we'll honor our commitments and stand with democracies around the globe. We must stand with Ukraine and our allies. Madam Speaker, the world is watching the United States House of Representatives. Just last night, Speaker Mike Johnson said that the bill was dead on arrival in the House, saying, quote, "In the absence of having received any single border policy change from the Senate, the House will have to continue to, quote unquote, work its own will on these important matters." He is reading straight out of the Vladimir Putin playbook. Inaction would be a gift to Russia and Vladimir Putin. By doing nothing, we would hand over Ukraine to Russia and Putin. Madam Speaker, Russia would not stop at Ukraine. As soon as Ukraine falls, they would move directly to another NATO ally. Now, many of my constituents rightly question the high cost of this aid package. Support for Ukraine and our allies is in our national interest. It is a national security issue. If we hand over Ukraine to Russia, then Putin will win. Our alliances will crumble. While the costs are high, we will spend 100 times more containing an aggressive Russia around the globe if we do nothing. We must stand with our allies. This will be a vote where members will be forced to choose between democracy and authoritarianism. That is the great challenge of our time, and we cannot fail. If Speaker Johnson fails to bring this bill to the floor, I believe the House will, quote unquote, work its own will on this issue. Now, our Speaker has made it clear that he is totally beholden to far-right MAGA extremists like we just heard from on the floor. It is the tail wagging the dog. However, I believe that a majority of the Republican conference would vote for the Senate aid package if they were allowed to work its own will on this bill and this issue. However, if Speaker Johnson brings the bill to the floor, I believe he will be sacked by MAGA extremists in the Republican conference. And let's be clear, it is the far right that's running the show in the House Republican conference today. And far too much attention has been given to far-right extremists in this Congress. Much more attention should be given to the members of the Republican conference who are retiring. Now, Madam Speaker, any one member can come down to the floor to offer a motion to vacate the chair. Only 4 House Republicans are needed to elect a new speaker. If Mike Johnson fails to act, I believe there are many Republicans in the House who agree with the 22 Republicans in the Senate on this issue. Now, I don't think we would have a Democratic speaker. I believe, though, there is support for a temporary speaker, a moderate, to move bills that can get 60 votes in the Senate and move those through the House. Maybe a temporary speaker for 2 or 3 weeks. That's what the nation wants. Members of Congress willing to work together to get things done and to solve our nation's toughest problems. We've just seen 22 Republicans in the Senate willing to vote country over party on this issue, and I believe there are Republicans in the House willing to do the same. That's the way we get bipartisan immigration reform and border security. It's the way we pass this supplemental appropriations bill to stand with our allies in Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. House Republicans have a choice, Madam Speaker. Are they pro-democracy or are they pro-Putin? House Republicans can choose country over party or Russia over the United States. House Republicans can stand with our allies or they can stand with Donald Trump. Will House Republicans stand with democratic nations like Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan, or will they stand with authoritarian regimes like Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea? I have hope for the retiring members of the Republican conference, and I believe there are members willing to stand with democracy over Donald Trump. Now, Madam Speaker, you have heard House Democrats come to the floor and talk about voting to put people over politics. This is an issue that is people over politics, and we must not fail. I yield back the balance of my time.